My today's guest is Marie from Philately Liechtenstein. The Philately is producing post stamps, the thing you put on your letter when you send them via the post office, but they also produce crypto post stamps. For sure we talk about that, but we also talk about a very special project together with Romero Brito, the famous pop art artist, who drew a specific artwork which you can have a look at in Liechtenstein, and they issued an NFT about that artwork. And we talk about her experience, and we talk also about why she is not drinking coffee and she's still a guest at Coffee from the Block. Welcome to Coffee from the Block from the House of Blockchain in Vaduz, Liechtenstein. My today's guest is Marie-Louise Herrmann-Rauscher. She works at the Philately Liechtenstein. Welcome to Coffee from the Block.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for having me.
I already see that you don't drink coffee, so we have to elaborate on that at the end of our talk. But let me understand a little bit more about yourself. So your background is, you already told me that you also have a legal background, kind of, but your main job is marketing and PR at Philately Liechtenstein.
Yes. Well, I have quite a road behind me, if you can say so. And the reason why I'm here with the Philately is also because of COVID. Because I joined the team in early 2020 when we were just about to head home after having worked in Switzerland for many years. So I didn't have a Philately background coming to this job. I did collect stamps when I was a child. I'm German, so there was a child collectors club from the German Postal Service in the 90s. So that I had, but I had to go from my last job because we didn't have any clients anymore during COVID. So like many people, we switched jobs, and that's how I came to Liechtenstein, and I've been here ever since.
So what a good surprise. So it was actually a good outcome in the end. Now we have you in Liechtenstein.
Yes.
For our guests who don't know what philately means, like what do we understand under philately?
Well, it's basically stamps and also coins, which is more about like numismatics. Mm-hmm. That's the technical term for it. But we here in Liechtenstein, we have both. So we are the official retailer for stamps that are made in the Principality of Liechtenstein and also sold as such. When you look a little back, for many decades, we wrote letters. And for letters, you needed stamps. They could be very practical, just, you put something on it that you can send it. But many countries started putting very nice motifs on stamps, and then they became collectible. And a lot of people who are older these days started to collect stamps rather than just use them as postage. And that started an interest in philatelies also around Europe, around the world, where subsections of the postal companies really invested in this and said, well, we want to use this as a collector's approach as well. And here in Liechtenstein, we think it's a cultural heritage. That's why we pay a lot of detail or attention to the motifs that we have on stamps. And that's why it was also a big step for us to go to crypto stamps in the end.
And Liechtenstein stamps are quite famous, because we are such a small country, and a lot of the collectors, they are very keen on getting this Liechtenstein stamps, so to say. And so it's basically, if you want to send a traditional mail, you put that post stamp on it, but as you said, it's way more than that. And Liechtenstein started, I think, comparatively early with this first post stamp with some blockchain use case behind it. But at the moment, it's actually way more, right? You have an app, you have several editions already of these post stamps. And there was a big announcement last year, or was it actually this year? Was this year with a special project. So what do you do? Why did you start to use blockchain technology for such traditional business model, right? To issue stamps and make nice stamps for collectors.
Well, also going back to collectors, they got older. They got less, unfortunately, but it's a part of life. And we wanted to create something to attract younger people, like younger generations. Like, for example, when have you last collected something? Maybe it's something your parents did.
I have to admit, I'm not a collector, and I was not into post stamps. But seriously, I have all of the editions of the blockchain enabled, so to say, stamps of Liechtenstein.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
So at least you attracted me.
Yes, but we wanted to attract people that had no relation to stamps at all. Today, how many messages you send via your smartphone, how many emails you send. There are people who send maybe like one letter a year or not at all. So how do you attract them to stamps that they don't know how to use or why to use them? And this was something that we said, well, you have the younger audiences. They're interested in blockchain in general. They're interested in crypto, anything that comes from new technologies where they can interact internationally, maybe even trade or make money or just collect, and say, why don't we combine it with stamps?
And how did you combine it? Like, what's the link between the physical stamp? I mean, we don't have to go into in every aspect of the technical solution, but I don't know if something is really IP, so it's protected, I don't know. But what's the connection between the stamp and the blockchain technology?
Well.
So that's the now available 4.1, right? Or is it?
It is the 4.1, yes. Well, first of all, you see here that it is a regular stamp.
Yeah.
So this is the basic. It is still a regular stamp. You can use it for postage. But here is a little SQR code imprinted.
So what SQR, I think we have to explain that, because QR code everybody is familiar with, right? The small, the codes you can scan with your mobile and then you go somewhere, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Well, an SQR code is a secure QR code. That means you cannot
You just cannot copy it easily. Or
yes, it means you cannot copy it. And that makes it also forgery proof. That was the word I was looking for. It's forgery proof, which is nice because then you cannot just copy the whole stamp and resell it again and say, well, then I have make many copies of the stamp and then make money from it in a way, or just faulty stuff.
So is it fair to say that a SQR enables you to have a unique post stamps and translate it to the blockchain world? That's the difference between having a fungible token, where you can have a lot of them which are not differentiated from each other, to a non-fungible token, NFT, where you really identify the token, the specific one. It makes the token unique.
It makes the token. This is still a unique stamp. Every stamp has a serial number.
Okay.
And when you scan the code, you can see it on a website. That's the first step. You can see the serial number. You can also see a little bit of the story that we put behind it. And when you when you place the stamp in the app, then you can see the serial number as well, and you can also see the puzzle universe that we put behind it. Our general approach was to make the stamp easy, to make it accessible, but also to make it interesting for more than one generation. So we thought maybe the younger people, they buy it because it's interesting to them, and then they show it to their grandparents, and then the grandson maybe can upload the stamp to the app and show it to grandfather. They can have the puzzle together and then start collecting something that is unique but interests both of them.
So you actually bring generations together.
Yes.
And I was told recently that is really happening. It's not just the idea; it is really happening. That generations now have something in common, because the younger generation uses the app, right, and collects and say, "Look, I have this kind of stamps already, and this attracts." Interesting, nice. And so, how does that work? So, if I can buy that stamp, right?
Yes.
I buy that stamp. And then I can download an app, and then I can scan the QR code. And what happens next?
Well, From this month onwards, we actually have also an iOS app. Until this point, we only had an Android app, but now we have two. And when you scan it, then first of all, it's placed in the app, so you can start a digital collection. You also see when it was first published. You see the face value of it, the designer of it, the name of the motif. And which collectible item is in the back. Because every edition that we publish has 4 collectibles that you can have one of in different quantities. So there's also like a fun part to collecting as well, to have all the 4s together. And then you can start a puzzle world. And in this case, with our stamp 4.0 and 4.1, we're telling stories about the Principality of Liechtenstein. So we're selling this worldwide. But for people maybe in the United States or in Australia, they don't know so much about this country. So we wanted to give them something more than just a stamp. And in the 4.1 version, we're telling the story of the princely house. That means we're going through the different game figures that we have, and each has a story. So, for example, for the late princess, we have a story. For the prince, we have a story. For the knight, just to say, how to say our best. For example, that the knight, you have a picture that you can solve as a puzzle, and then you always have a story in the back. So maybe how many knights are at the castle, or who is the oldest knight at the castle. So there's always a question linked to the puzzle that will be answered once you have solved it.
I think one of the questions I am actually personally asked very often is that if our princely family still lives in the castle. Right?
Really? Okay.
So, and yes, people are sometimes really surprised that they are. So they live in our castle in Vaduz, and you can see it from our Vaduz as the main capital, so to say.
I can imagine that they're even more surprised if you tell them that you can see them also in downtown Vaduz, and that they're very approachable.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. So as a part, so that's your day job, right? You work at the Philately, you are involved in this crypto stamps, I think is one of the terms we use for that. But how did I'm also interested in the personal stories of people, right? So how did you start to get engaged with blockchain? Was it because of that job, or did you have any exposure before that?
Well, I must be honest, before I got more knowledge about blockchain in general, I like many other people, I stayed away a little because I thought, well, it's something that you cannot touch. It's something digital. It's something far away. You have to maybe open a wallet somewhere. You have to invest, or you have to spend money. And that's also the feedback I get from a lot of people. Say, what is it in general, or how can I explain it, even if it still is digital or it remains digital? And so I was a little reluctant to get into that, but also because I'm not the most outgoing person when it comes to investing and all of that. I'm a little conservative on that matter, but
as you said, it is actually way more, and that is also something which I try to tell people. It's way more than cryptocurrencies or this or that token, right? That is what a lot of people are talking about. But in the end, it's for me at least, right? It's more about the technology. It's about where you can use this technology for digitalization. For sure, in Liechtenstein, it's a lot about tokenization. We have our framework for that. And when we talked about like why, or if I'm asked why do we do like coffee from the block, is also because there is, if you come to Liechtenstein at the bridge, there is no like big sign telling you welcome to the fabulous crypto country Liechtenstein. That is not true, right? So if you visit our country, you don't see like crypto on every second corner. But there are a lot of companies and entrepreneurs, but also individuals using these technologies. And the idea is to talk about that, because that is true. If you look closely and if you ask people, if you talk to people, you see that even the Philately, right, uses blockchain technology in a very innovative way, right? But it's a very traditional business model. Like your normal business model is very traditional. It's very old. It's very collecting stamps. You wouldn't imagine that this is one of the use cases where you can use this technology very successfully, even to actually to bring generations together again, right? To make it attractive. And it is, first of all, I mean, I personally think that they're nice, right? That's one aspect of it. But it's really interesting to see where this technology is used. And but now you started with, so you are more into blockchain now, if that's fair to say.
Yes.
Good. And besides, like, did you have any exposure to NFTs? I know you did, because there was one big project Philately did, and it was actually, we had an amazing guest here in Liechtenstein.
Yes. In November, we were visited by Romero Brito, who is Brazilian, but he's one of the most famous neo-pop art artists in the world at the moment. And I saw that you also have an artist piece in your office, a little elephant.
It's kind of embarrassing on the one hand, but on the other hand, when we had the first call, and the project was actually discussed, they said, look, and then we have Romero Brito. And I remembered and I recognized the name, but I had no clear picture, right? And then Friedrich actually said, Thomas, look behind you on your desk. This elephant, that's from Romero.
Yes.
And I said, oh my gosh, it's so shit. But I said, now I see, that's Romero Brito. So it's this very colorful elephant, it's very colorful pop art, as you said.
Yes.
Right? And he drew art for a project, right?
Yes, he created the artwork that is behind the NFT. Like our NFT art edition was is limited to 1,500 pieces. And behind every NFT, there's a little piece of this artwork. And the actual artwork is here in Liechtenstein, in the museum, and everybody can visit it. As it's very colorful. It has those little mushrooms that we have as collectible items again. And we were very happy to work with him, because he's very outgoing. He was very much involved in the whole project. And it definitely brings more color to the country.
Absolutely true. More color, more light. He's a very, very, if he comes into a room, he fills the room with energy.
Oh, yes.
So it was really a pleasure to meet him.
Yeah. I was very impressed as well, but also because he has a connection to stamps. He used to collect them when he was a child. So it's always good if you have a client or an artist you're working with who has some relation to the product, because a stamp is still special. It's not some other item that you can just, commercialize in somewhat way. And so it worked out perfectly fine.
So we talked about your stamp 4.1, the blockchain stamp 4.1. We talked about this special NFT project together with Romero Brito. So what's next? What can we expect from the Liechtenstein Philately?
Well, we will continue with the crypto stamp, obviously. A couple months ago, we started a new collectible series with animals. And the next one...
Cats.
The cat.
The cats.
The cat. Yes. Did you try it?
I have all of them. The meerkat is fun. The cat is... I have
and the
them.
duck as well.
I had to actually... That's a true story. My wife... was able to get one, and I was too late for I don't know which edition, and so we had to actually switch. So we had to actually exchange, because she had one I did not have, and so that's a true story. Seriously, I tried, and I actually called my assistant to get it, right, because the time slot started 9 something in the morning.
Yes,
and they were sold out, and I said I was too late, and then my wife said no, I was successful. And then she said, yeah, but I did not have the first one. I said, I have the first one, right? So it's really a true story. So
No, but
and I was not into collecting post stamps, but first of all, they're really cute. Like this animal edition is really cute.
yeah.
And secondly, it's cool to have them on the phone as well. So
Yeah, but it's the same like you just said. You're not really into collecting, but it's the second time you collect something you didn't collect before.
yeah.
And that's kind of the whole point. I mean, we bring younger audiences to this stamp. But yes, it will be continued. I cannot tell you what the next animal will be, but it will be released on the 7th of July. It was also the feedback that we got from a lot of customers that they say, well, we cannot get it because it's so limited. And then we started a new subscription for that. And that has been very well received. And we said, well, for a long time, the classic subscribers were declining, but through crypto, we're getting them back to subscribing, which is really nice. And so they can also make sure that they get one of the animal stamps as well.
Finally, normally
Yes.
I ask all of my guests, what's your favorite coffee? And you said, Thomas, I don't know if I'm at the right place here because it's called Coffee from the Block and I'm not a coffee drinker. And I said, that's perfectly fine. We can offer you tea. So obviously you're not a coffee drinker. What is your favorite tea then?
Well, I'm not. I was never really into coffee.
How did you survive studying at university? For me, without coffee, not possible. You drank tea or?
I drank tea. I drank a lot of water, and I tried to get sunlight, and that also helped.
Okay.
Yeah, but honestly, I cannot answer that question anymore. It worked. We got through it. No, when I moved to Switzerland, I found a lot of really, really great tea. And the one you offered me is also from Switzerland, like Swiss herbal tea. And it's just perfect. Even on a day like today when we don't have the best weather outside, and it's just a calming thing that also just gets me through the day and makes me happy.
And it's not about the drink we drink. Yes, I do love coffee, but it's actually to sit together. It's more than like we drink a coffee means we spend time together.
Yes.
We get to know each other. We get to know what we do.
Yes.
And that is the idea behind it. Marie, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me despite the tea.
It was a big pleasure. Looking forward to your next projects. I also look forward to have you again on the Token Summit.
Yes, I hope so.
The CCA
Yeah.
Token Summit, 12th and 13th of October. And thank you.
Thank you very much.